I learned a lot about the people here in Austria and the culture here in Europe. It's very different, I'd say, from the United States. And another part I would say I learned a lot about was World War II and its connection to the Alps.
I learned a lot about the hut culture in the Alps. There were a lot of things that were very different from the United States, and we don't really have anything like huts in the United States, so it was really interesting to get to experience that for the first time and to kind of be a guest in their culture.
I learned a lot about both Austria and Germany in many different aspects. I learned a lot about the culture and the people, but also through everyone's teachings in our group every day. I learned a lot about the mountains themselves and like the Alpine mythology, which I thought was really cool.
I think the biggest thing that I learned was the importance of each member of a group, especially when you're traveling. Before coming on this trip, I thought that the leader would be the most important because they have to make all the decisions, but I found that even like more insignificant roles, you could say, like the sweep or the journalist, actually hold a lot of importance because they document the day and they have to make sure that everyone's there.
This being my first time out of the country, I learned about what it means to travel a lot, the different steps that are taken into making sure that your travel plans work. We focused a lot on like leadership skills in buying tickets, getting to places, just using a map, not using your phone. So I think I learned a lot there.
I think I've really learned to dial into my surroundings without always having my phone at my side, and I really learned this during our hikes in the mountains because there was never really any time to use our phones, and I think it's really helped me with the rest of the trip to focus on what we're doing in the present moment.
I've learned just kind of how to be a traveler and how to hike and just kind of how to get along with so many other people when you do not have the same essential things that you use in your everyday life. So working together with others and communicating your thoughts and feelings and having a healthy community.
From this trip, I'll take away a newfound appreciation of nature.
One thing that was really impactful to me was how we were able to connect with these Austrian students even though we didn't necessarily speak the same language, and it just shows that certain things transcend the language barrier. And Lily had mentioned before when we were at one of the huts how it was really interesting that everyone came out to watch the sunset because that's just a human thing to do even though none of us speak the same language, which I thought was pretty sick.
The most important takeaway from this trip for me will definitely be the friendships I've made on this trip, both within our Lawrenceville group and with the Austrian students that we've met here. I was really nervous coming on this trip because I didn't know anyone in our group, but now I think we're all really close friends. We've gone through a lot of difficult days and experiences together, and I think it's really brought us together as a group. And this trip has also been an amazing opportunity to make international friendships.
The biggest takeaway from this trip for me was the difference in culture in America and in Austria and Germany. For example, in Austria, when people pass by each other, or in Germany, they say Servus, which is like a greeting, whereas in America, especially in New York where I live, like you don't even say hi to people when you walk by the street. Or like at Lawrenceville, even people who I see every day I don't say hi to. So I think that's like a really interesting difference in culture.
I think a major key takeaway for me is how easy it is to build like human connections and relationships. We've only been here for 5 or 6 days and we were able to build friendships that I think will last us a really, really long time. So I think I learned that no matter where you are in the world, it's sort of easy to make those relationships.
I think my biggest takeaway was making sure that everyone in our group was always included in our activities and always helping others when they needed it.
My key takeaways are how to work with other people in kind of a different kind of scenario. As for wrestling, it's kind of individual, so you're not always working with others. So this was kind of a unique scenario where I had to communicate and work with other people to be successful and to complete and finish tasks.
I think I've changed by developing a new set of skills in terms of working with a group and using your skills to the fullest to help the group.
I've done a lot of things on this trip that I never thought I would do, so I think I'm just coming back with a wider worldview and a newfound appreciation for travelers and for working in a group, because I've also never traveled in a group before, so I've learned a lot of things and gained a lot of new perspectives.
I learned a lot about how to function in like a group with a really like important role. Each person has a really important role in this group, and I think through that it's taught me a lot about leadership and getting along with other people, and that's really like a major change that I've gone through on this trip.
At the beginning of the trip, I would say I was much more reserved and I didn't really like expose my personality, but I think being surrounded by so many people who are funny and like made me want to show who I am, like encouraged me to be more of myself, which sounds kind of cringy, but I feel like I've really transformed as a person and I've been able to show my personality more.
I think I've changed a lot this trip in the sense that I've pushed myself really far to limits that I didn't think that I could, and I think I learned that like limits don't necessarily exist. I didn't think I would ever be climbing mountains for 7.5 hours, but I was able to do that, and the smaller things as well that I didn't really think it would be as easy to make friends as it is, and I think I'll be able to take a lot of that back when I'm at school.
I think I've become a much more prepared person because up on the mountains you really can't forget any of your gear, and I think that skill has transferred over into everyday preparations.
Yes, I have changed by just kind of being able to work with others better, communicating my feelings to others, getting along with people that, you know, sometimes you don't want to talk to others, but you have to for the sake of bringing the group together. So just kind of being comfortable when you're uncomfortable. So I think that's kind of one of the things I've changed and will continue to try to do in the future.
On this program, Harkness Travel Learning Program, I have learned, and one of my biggest takeaways associated with myself and leadership is the need to step back a little bit. Being the one that has the German and being the one that has the relationships here, I think I put myself a little bit forward too much, and teamwork is important, and I really benefited from Mr. Hughes giving me a little signal or just telling me to find my Zen moment, which was a good reminder. So while I've done this program a lot, I think that was one of the biggest takeaways for me in terms of self and leadership. Also, citizenship, global citizenship. This is something that I have seen blossom on this program in terms of how well the students have come together from the two schools. And for me, that's been one of the greatest joys for this program. And it seems like invitations are being extended back and forth across the great Atlantic Ocean. So it's been a success.
Gritty.
Heiße Schokolade.
Crazy.
Sunsets.
Peter Wiekenthaler.
Zauberhaft.
Spezi.
Unique.
Wunderbar.
Beautiful.